Hare Jaya Radha Madhura Jaya Sridham Jaya Sridham Yashodhanandana Rajajanarandana Yashodhanandana Rajajanarandana Jamana Jamina Jaya Gopi Yamuna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Radha, Madhava Radha, Gaur Jai Vishupad Paramahamsa Kri Vraj Gachavya Stotra Satya Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Tirabai Sharandarvin Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Swami Biti Founder Sarya Divine Grace Sri Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Samavata Bhaktivinoda Ki Hari Nam Sankirtan Ki Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada Ki. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Takshurundalinam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhisham Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Pandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaisnavam Shyam Shri Rupam Sagradatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Advaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanditam Sya Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Dhanamani Hare Priye Vansakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhudyam Patitam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the Supremest Human Being, unto Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesha badreshu
नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
नित्यं भागवतसेवया
Bhagavati Tamashloke
भागवते उत्तमश्लोके
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी
By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama
इदं भागवतं नाम
Pranam Brahmasamhitam
पुराणं ब्रह्मसंहितं
Tamashloka Charitam
उत्तमश्लोकचरितं
Sakara Bhagavan Rishi
चकार भगवान् ऋषि
Nishreyasaya Lokasya
निःश्रेयसाय लोकस्य
Dhanyam Swastayanam Maha.
धन्यं
This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, the Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya,
श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य
Prabhu Nityananda,
प्रभो नित्यानन्द
Sri Advaita Gadadhara,
श्री अद्वैत गदाधर
Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृन्द
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
हरे कृष्ण
Krishna Krishna, Hare
कृष्ण
Hare,
कृष्ण हरे
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
हरे हरे राम
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
राम
Om Namo Bhagavate
ओम
Vasudevaya.
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
Om Shradhyaya Namaha.
ओम सुरभ्याय
Om Shradhyaya Namaha.
ओम सुरभ्याय
Om Shradhyaya Namaha.
ओम सुरभ्याय
Mukam karoti vachanam tvang nangayate girim Yatripa tamaham bande Shri Gurum Vinataranam Yatripa tamaham bande Shri Gurum Vinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our daily Bhagavatam class. We are continuing from Srimad Bhagavatam, canto number 2, chapter 5, entitled The Cause of All Causes. And today's text 24, 24. Yeah, 24. Hmm. So, ahankara iti prapto vikurvan samabhut sridha vaikarikas taijasas cha tamasas cheti yad vida dravya shakti kriya shaktir jnana shaktir iti prabhu. Sohankara iti prokto vikurvan samabhut tridha Vaikarikas Taijasascha Tamasas Cheti Yad Bhida Dravya Shakti Kriya Shaktir Jnana Shakti Rito Prabhu Jnana Shakti Riti Prabhu Sohankara iti prokto Vikurvan samabhut tridha Vikurvan samabhut tridha Vaikarikas taijasascha Tamasaschetti yad vida Dravya Shakti Kriya Shaktir Jnana Shaktir iti Prabhu Sohankara iti Prokto Vikurvan Samabhut Tridha Vaikarikas Taijasascha Tamasaschetti yad vidha Dravya Shakti Kriya Shaktir Jnana Shakti Rito Prabhu Sohankara iti Prokto Vikurvan Samabhut Tridha Vaikarikas Taijasascha Tamasaschitti Yadvida Dravya Shaktir Kriya Shaktir Jnana Shaktir iti Prabhu Sohankara iti Prokto Vikurvan Samabhut Tridha Vaikarikas Taijasascha Tamasaschitti Yadvida Dravya Shakti Kriya Shaktir Jnana Shaktir iti Prabhu. Saha, the very same thing. Ahankara, ego, iti, thus, proktaha, said, vikurvan, being transformed, samabhut, became manifested, vidha, tridha, yeah, in three features, vaikarikaha, in the mode of goodness, taijasaha, in the mode of passion, cha, and tamasaha, in the mode of ignorance, cha, also, iti, thus, yet, what is, vidha, divided, dravya shakti, powers that evolve matter, kriya shakti, initiation that creates, jnana shakti, intelligence that guides, iti, thus, Prabhu, O Master. Translation and purport by the Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The self-centered materialistic ego, thus being transformed into three features, becomes known as the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance in three divisions, namely the powers that evolve matter, knowledge of material creation, and the intelligence that guides such materialistic activities. Narada, you're quite competent to understand this. Kindly repeat after me. The self-centered materialistic ego, thus being transformed into three features, becomes known as the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance in three divisions, namely the powers that evolve matter, knowledge of material creations, and the intelligence that guides such materialistic activities. Narada, you are quite competent to understand this. Let us see how well we can understand this. Report. Materialistic ego. Materialistic ego, also known as ahankara, or the sense of identification with matter, is grossly self-centered, devoid of clear knowledge of the existence of God. And this self-centered egoism of the materialistic living entities is a cause of their being conditioned by the other paraphernalia and continuing their bondage of material existence. In the Bhagavad Gita, this self-centered egoism is very nicely explained in the 7th chapter, verses 24 through 27. Seventh chapter, 24 to 27. So chapter 7 is entitled Knowledge of the Absolute, and verses 24 to 27 that are being quoted here. We'll just read this. Text 24 of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7. Avyaktam vyakyam apanam manyate mam abhuddhayah param bhavam ajananto mamavyayam anutamam. Translation: unintelligent men who know me not think that I have assumed this form and personality due to their small knowledge. They do not know my higher nature, which is changeless and supreme. That is very similar to the verse Avajanantimam Buddha Manushyantanam Asritam. Param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheswaram. Yeah. Then these verses describe the uh, conditioned soul who identifies with the matter, with the material matter, or with the body or material nature. So text 25, Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavritah buddho yam nabijanati lokomam ajam avyayam. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my eternal creative potency, creative yogamaya. And so the deluded world knows me not, who am unborn and infallible. Hmm. And two more verses that are in the same spirit here. Text 26. Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjuna bhavishyani chabhutani mam tu veda nakaschana. O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me, no one knows. And text 27, Itsadvaisa samuttena dvandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa. O son of Bharata, Arjuna, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, overcome by the dualities of desire and hate. This is the description in the Bhagavad Gita of the conditioned living entity governed by this ahankar. So to continue the purport of text 24, the self-centered impersonalist without a clear conception of the personality of Godhead concludes in his own way that the personality of Godhead takes a material shape from his original impersonal spiritual existence for a particular mission. And this misleading conception of the Supreme Lord by the self-centered impersonalist continues, even though he is seen to be very interested in the Vedic literatures such as the Brahma Sutra, the Brahma Sutras, and other highly intellectual sources of knowledge. This ignorance of the personal feature of the Lord is due simply to ignorance of the mixture of different modes. The impersonalist thus cannot conceive of the Lord's eternal spiritual form of eternal knowledge, bliss, and existence. The reason is that the Lord reserves the right of not exposing himself to the non-devotee, who, even after a thorough study of literature like the Bhagavad Gita, remains an impersonalist simply by obstinacy. This obstinacy is due to the action of Yogamaya, a personal energy of the Lord that acts like a ned de camp by covering the vision of the obstinate impersonalist. Such a bewildered human being is described as mudha, or grossly ignorant, because he is unable to understand the transcendental form of the Lord as being unborn and unchangeable. If the Lord takes a form or material shape from his original impersonal feature, then it means that he is born and changeable from impersonal to personal. But he is not changeable, nor does he ever take a new birth like a conditioned soul. The conditioned soul may take a form, birth after birth, due to his conditioned existence in matter. But the self-centered impersonalists, by their gross ignorance, accept the Lord as one of them because of self-centered egoism, even after so-called advancement of knowledge in the Vedanta. The Lord being situated in the heart of every individual living entity knows very well the tendency of such conditioned souls in terms of past, present, and future. But the bewildered conditioned soul hardly can know him in his eternal form. By the will of the Lord, therefore, the impersonalists, even after knowing the Brahman and Paramatma features of the Lord, remain ignorant of his eternal personal feature as ever-existent Narayana, transcendental to all material creation. So this is one more small section of the purport is there. So we are reading here how due to this ahankara or false ego, even though one may study for very, very long time Vedic literatures, even though one may study Bhagavad Gita, even one may study Bhagavatam, still they don't get or understand the personal feature of Krishna. And of course, that is explained in different ways. Prabhupada is referring here that, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, I do not reveal myself so easily. Krishna also explains to Arjuna that this knowledge that I am speaking, this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita that I am speaking, it is very, very confidential knowledge. Only those who are actually my devotees, those who are my devotees, it means those who actually accept this path or process of bhakti or devotional service. So therefore, also in the Bhagavad Gita, that's also confirmed in the 14th chapter, that it is only by the process of devotional service that one can actually come to know Krishna as he is. Mamsayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samadhityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. There's also mention here of the influence of Yoga Maya. So how is Yoga Maya and Mahamaya working in the material world? Mahamaya, there is an intimate relationship between Yoga Maya and Mahamaya. So here, Prabhupada is clearly indicating that this inability to understand the personal feature of the Lord is due to the action of Yoga Maya, a personal feature of the Lord that acts like a nez de camp by covering the vision of the obstinate impersonalist. So we get a little glimpse of, by this explanation being given here by Srila Prabhupada, how when one is under the clutches of Maya, when one is still influenced by these modes of material nature, it is very, very difficult to understand the personal feature of the Lord. Even though here, as explained by Srila Prabhupada, the impersonalists, even after knowing the Brahma and Paramatma features of the Lord, remain ignorant of his eternal personal feature as Narayana. Then Prabhupada explains actually in the last portion here, the verse. The cause of such gross ignorance is constant engagement in the materialistic, by the materialistic man in the matter of artificially increasing material demands. To realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one has to purify the materialistic senses by devotional service. The mode of goodness or the Brahminical culture recommended in the Vedic literatures is helpful to such spiritual realization, and thus the Jnana Shakti stage of the conditioned soul is comparatively better than the other two stages, namely Dravya Shakti and Kriya Shakti. The whole material civilization is manifested by a huge accumulation of materials. Or in other words, raw materials for industrial purposes. And the industrial enterprises, Kriya Shakti, are all due to gross ignorance of spiritual life. In order to rectify this great anomaly of materialistic civilization based on the principles of Dravya Shakti and Kriya Shakti, one has to adopt the process of devotional service of the Lord by adoption of the principles of Karma Yoga mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita as follows: Yat karosi yadasnasi, yat johosi dadasi, yat tapasyasi konteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. So, the Prabhupada at the end here is making reference to different types of powers, namely Dravya Shakti and Kriya Shakti. Of course, in the text, Dravya Shakti is translated, Prabhupada translates as powers that evolve matter. Powers that evolve matter. And Kriya Shakti, initiation that creates. Initiation that creates. And a third Shakti that Prabhupada refers to, or actually that is mentioned in the text, is Jnana Shakti. So there is Dravya Shakti, Kriya Shakti, and Jnana Shakti. Jnana Shakti means the intelligence that guides. So interesting how at the end of the purport here, Prabhupada is explaining how those who are too involved with industrial activities, which is very much the condition of modern day so-called advanced civilization. The whole material civilization is manifested by a huge accumulation of materials, or in other words, raw materials for industrial purposes. Because of this because we don't direct our energies towards spirituality, we have become, to a large extent, fully centered on what we call material development, isn't it? Modern society especially is focused on materialistic development in the name of what they call economic development and industry and technology, manipulation of material energy, using material energy for so-called advancement of civilization, which to a large extent is based on how to improve how to increase our so-called material comforts. So Prabhupada is indicating that when one's consciousness is on that level, the more we are implicated in manipulating material energy for our self-interest, then this disqualifies us to understand these subject matters. And it's kind of interesting how Prabhupada at the end here mentions that one should adopt the principles of karma yoga. In order to rectify this great anomaly of materialistic civilization. Yeah, anomaly means what is irregular, what is not normal, abnormal. Anomaly means abnormal. What is abnormal? Our fixation on this, these two types of energies. In other words, we are misusing our energies. Human being has a lot of energy, but when it is misused, we become disqualified. So industrial enterprises, Prabhupada is referring to industrial enterprises as this Kriya Shakti. What is another translation for Dravya Shakti? Dravya. That means anything? Matter. Dravya. Yeah, Dravya Shakti, powers that evolve matter. So this point is being made here by Srila Prabhupada. In order to rectify this great anomaly of materialistic civilization, based on the principles of Dravya Shakti and Kriya Shakti, one has to adopt the process of devotional service of the Lord by adoption of the principles of karma yoga. So this is very much similar to what we call Daiva Varnasrama. Daiva Varnasrama means Varnasrama is material arrangement, material system. But just like also eating is a material activity. Eating. But when this eating, sleeping, mating, all of these so-called materialistic activities, when they are done in the service of the Lord, as quoted by Srila Prabhupada here from Bhagavad Gita, text 27 of the 9th chapter. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. So in another place, Prabhupada would explain that it is not that when we become devotee that we reject matter. Karmis, they are totally fixed on matter, and of course their obsession for material enjoyment is because they know nothing more than this material energy. But a devotee is someone who knows that this matter originates from a particular source. Ultimately, matter is energy of Krishna, and is meant to be utilized in Krishna's service. So we do not reject matter, but we learn how to properly utilize material nature. And we also, very important aspect, we learn to minimize our material activities, our material endeavors. We learn to be satisfied with what is called the bare necessities of life. So this Prabhupada is recommending here how whole modern civilization, therefore, Prabhupada would explain, is misdirected in this way. And so many huge undertakings or enterprises in the name of so-called advancement people are in this way being misled. So this this is what happens when one is acting on the bodily platform, guided by the ahankara or false ego. We'll just read the verse again here. The self-centered materialistic ego, thus being transformed into three features, becomes known as the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance in three divisions, namely the powers that evolve matter, knowledge of material creations, and the intelligence that guides such materialistic activities. Narada, you are quite competent to understand this. Any comments on this? Okay, fine. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Sri Prabhupada ki Jai.